What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor of Fightful.com here. Wanted to do a quick news update before tonight's Clash of Champions show because it's the type of topic that I don't necessarily want to cover on the Clash of Champions show. I'm sure we'll talk about it on this Wednesday's List and Your Boy podcast, our flagship show on Fightful.com. Over at Fightful.com, we cover pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing, and especially the crossover between those three. So it was kind of natural today that we covered this situation that happened. It's kind of like a UFC fighter versus pro wrestling thing, and I don't want a blanket statement, people. Chase Sherman, UFC heavyweight, tweeted a clip of Ring of Honor Final Battle. It was a six-man tag match between Bullet Club's Hung Bucks. That's Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, and Hangman Page against Titan, Dragon Lee, Flip Gordon. We covered the show, have a post-show podcast, all that good stuff. There's a topic, or not a topic, there was a spot in the match where the Young Bucks and all their opponents and teammates and everything ended up doing a six-person drop kick and all of them missed. Like it was a choreographed spot, and this is Chase Sherman's reaction to such. He said, "Grown men watch this." And he got a few responses. Now he got a hell of a, he got 3,800 retweets, almost 1,000 comments, 7,700 likes. Scott Armstrong, a WWE ref, chimed in. Jim Cornette chimed in. I'll get to that in a bit. Phil Baroni said, "None of the moves work anymore. Everybody kicks out of everything. Nobody kicked out of the Rude Awakening or the Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And people tap to the figure four. King Kong Bundy splash you into a 5 count." Whew, there is a lot to break down here. So first off, Chase Sherman knew exactly what he was doing. Chase Sherman is a social media savant. Like, if for some reason his MMA career goes downhill and he can't compete anymore, somebody's going to hire him to handle their social media. Like, to draw a comparison, he is the WWE of social media, and everybody else is just kind of competing around. Like, he's so good at social media. There is nobody in his neighborhood, maybe an Angela Hill, that's it. But Chase Sherman's social media game is A+. A+. He is always getting buzz for the things he puts out there. So he knew what was up. And he went on to troll a little bit. And what his true feelings are, I don't know. The things that get me, okay, let's address these one by one because they're kind of funny. And there were some constructive as well. Jim Cornette makes this like a size thing, like some weird size thing. He says, "Sadly, I agree with you, Chase. Pro wrestling was the blueprint for promoting fights and was the building block for the success of the UFC. This horse shit is not pro wrestling. Grown men used to do it, and it worked. Grade school kids pretend fighting is why you guys have taken over." Okay, well, I can say this. From a TV perspective, UFC hasn't taken over. UFC would kill for a TV rating that WWE would be miserable for. Pay-per-view, man, UFC's the king. No debate. But this isn't a pro wrestling versus MMA thing. Jim Cornette saying like grade schools kids pretend fighting. Is it like a size thing? Like the Young Bucks are like 180 pounds each now. That's a middleweight in the UFC. There are only 2 weight divisions heavier than that. Like, I'm sorry that grown men don't pump their hearts full of steroids and die at 38 anymore. Like, it's just the way that things change. People know that Anderson Silva, 205-pounder at the heaviest, was the baddest dude on the planet at one point. Like, that's just the way it is. So making it a size thing is particularly weird, especially when you look back at Genki Sudo. Genki Sudo beat the shit out of Butterbean. Butterbean stepped over into a WWE ring and knocked out their quote-unquote toughest dude with the quickness. Genki Sudo was half Butterbean's size. Like, there are countless examples of that, of Stefan Struve getting beaten by small guys. Phil Baroni using the Shake, Rattle, and Roll as a hill to die on. That was a funny one. Shayna Baszler says, "MMA to pro wrestling." That's fake, bro. Also MMA. Dude, the Dragon is a White Walker now. Pro wrestling's entertainment, y'all. It's not real. They're allowed to take it as far as they want. Does it have to be your taste? No, it doesn't have to be. And Jim Cornette saying this was the building block for promoting fights. Whatever they do is the building block for selling 500,000 shirts at Hot Topic in the last half of the year. Being Hot Topic's top selling shirt. Like, that's that's the building blocks of whatever they're doing and finding it successful. Did I like the spot? No, I didn't. Wasn't my cup of tea. Did I like the match? I sure did. Hangman Page would chime in and send it the Joey Ryan Dick spot. And then I had a discussion with Daniel Cormier on Twitter as well. He said, this is actually pathetic. This is what people want to see. Go to a goddamn gymnastics competition. Suplex, body slam, pile driver. Do some old school wrestling, man. DDT. I remember when the Frankensteiner was the most you'd ever see someone flip. I say boo to this BS. And I kind of responded and I said, entertainment is subjective. Also, if a Frankensteiner was the most anybody used to flip, you probably weren't paying that much attention to the show, because around that same time, Too Cold Scorpio was doing 450s off the top rope. Like, it's always, there's always been things that people thought were unrealistic. Is this one of those things that I think is unrealistic? Yeah, I do. I think a 6-person drop kick is incredibly unrealistic. Came from a catch wrestling background. I talked to my catch wrestling coach about this on Twitter, actually. I said, that's just some of the things that happen. I think that a person being kept in a rear chin lock for a minute and not knowing how to sit out of it or turn into it, that's incredibly unrealistic. We're supposed to buy that these are elite wrestlers, but they don't know how to get out of a chin lock for a solid minute and a half. That is just as egregious as a 6-person drop kick in my estimation. And what I saw was a lot of people trying to make it their agendas. Like Phil Baroni was trying to make it his agenda. Like, I would have never gotten into amateur wrestling or anything had I known. Yeah, you would have, because all kinds of shit went on. I mean, like, this isn't new. Like, there have been unbelievable quote unquote spots in pro wrestling for a long time. What you are willing to believe directly correlates to how much you are able to enjoy any particular style of wrestling. I don't like light tubes and stuff. I'm not going to enjoy it no matter what happens. If there's a light tube in the match, I'm not going to like it. I mentioned to Daniel, I said entertainment is subjective. I remember when Brian Ebersol and James Krause pulled off cartwheel kicks and Anthony Pettis ran up a cage. Michael Page debuted with a 720, 730-degree kick. Zaromski's hit a front roll into one. And he said, you don't actually believe that was too much? And those examples you gave don't work, bud. That was a minute of gymnastics with no direction, all to get to an 8-man missed drop kick. That was the big moment. All 8 men missed a drop kick. It was 6. Fair. But, I mean, it kind of shows that a lot of people, their focus wasn't on the scope of the match. Like, it's not my cup of tea, but that was not the direction. That was not the build. That was a spot in a match that went about 15, 16 minutes. Like, I don't get Dragon Ball Z. I'm not disgusted by it. And I don't think that Daniel's disgusted by pro wrestling. In fact, at UFC 210 this year, Fightful.com sent several of our wrestling writers there with Showdown Joe. And Daniel, in the middle of a weight cut, and his weight cuts are pretty brutal, his face lit up when Brandon Howard asked him about pro wrestling. And Daniel Cormier was able to reel off like live gate numbers and records and things like that. Like, he knows his stuff. That's why I took the time and spoke to him about it, as opposed to some of the people that were kind of just trolling. And Phil Baroni wasn't very, even though Phil Baroni works in matches, I get the feeling he's not that educated about the landscape and the grand scale of things, especially as it pertains to Ring of Honor. But Daniel Cormier, I know, and has been nothing but kind in dealing with things like this. And the amount of criticism that guy deals with on a daily basis, didn't want him to think I was coming at him like as an attack. And he admitted that he is a massive fan. But pro wrestling is entertainment. It is Jackie Chan. It can be Jackie Chan or it can be Chris Tucker. It can be a lot of different things. I can get down and I can enjoy some Billy Robinson back in the day, who would do some things that were unbelievable, but I know firsthand from witnessing it happening on wrestling mats, it can happen. But at the same time, if somebody walked into a catch wrestling class and claimed that they were a top-level wrestler, got slapped into a rear chin lock, couldn't sit out of it, that's unbelievable to me. I've seen some crazy things happen in the worlds of MMA that otherwise I would think, man, that's fake. There's no way that could happen. There's no way that could be pulled off in a fight. I've seen fisherman suplexes done on the wrestling mats. I've seen a Boston Crab tap out a guy. I mean, it was a guy who had a completely inept ground game in an MMA fight. I've seen inverted STFs with the back bridge and everything pulled off. Like, different strokes for different folks. Are there things that I don't enjoy? Hell yeah, there are. Are there things that you don't enjoy? Of course there are. Should you feel ashamed of liking them? If it doesn't hurt anybody, if it's not against the law, hell no, you shouldn't. You know, there, like I said, it became less about what's realistic and what's not. But when people started to make it like about agendas, like the size thing, come on, the size thing, only people who don't know what they're talking about are really, really holding on to that one. At this point, if you're still holding on to they're too little, they can't wrestle at all, man, you're really trying. You're really stretching, like Space Jam Michael Jordan in the fourth quarter stretching. Either way, thanks to Daniel Cormier for the back and forth. We have Clash of the Champions coming up tonight. Check it out. We had our UFC on Fox Winnipeg show last night. Check it out. Of course, there is nobody that covers the crossover of pro wrestling, MMA, and boxing like Fightful.com. And we got all your news individually as well. If you don't like one of those three, you can filter them out at Fightful.com. We have forums, photos, videos, podcasts, everything you could ask for. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, guys. Until next time, we're out.